We all know the name Miles Davis. He's a giant of music, a true legend. But the real question isn't if he was a legend, it's how he became one. I mean, what was the secret to his genius? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
Just listen to this from Rolling Stone. When a publication like that calls you the most revered jazz trumpeter of all time, you're not just a great musician anymore. You're a foundational figure, somebody who literally shaped the sound of the 20th century.
So what does it really take to become a true legend? Is it just about having hit records, selling out concerts? For Miles, the answer was way deeper than that. It was a philosophy he lived by, and it defined his entire career.
This right here. This was his guiding principle, his entire artistic DNA. He was relentlessly, almost obsessively focused on what was next. Forget about a greatest hits tour. He was obsessed with creating new hits, even if it meant alienating the very fans who loved his old stuff. And this relentless reinvention is the whole key.
Okay, so let's get into it. People called him the Picasso of jazz, and for a really good reason. Just like the painter, his career wasn't just one single style. It was a whole series of distinct, totally revolutionary periods, where each one broke the rules of the last.
Think of this timeline as our roadmap. We're about to journey through 5 decades where Miles didn't just play jazz. He'd learn it, master it, and then completely tear it all down just to rebuild it into something new. And he did this over and over and over again.
All right, our story kicks off in the 1940s. A young Miles Davis makes his way to New York City, and he lands smack in the middle of a musical explosion called bebop.
Now, bebop was the sound of that era. It was incredibly fast, super complex, and really built for musical acrobats. And Miles, well, he learned from the absolute best, playing right alongside giants like the legendary saxophonist Charlie "Bird" Parker. He was basically an apprentice in the hottest musical movement on the planet. But here it is, the first sign of that restless spirit. He and some other young musicians, they started to get tired of bebop's whole emphasis on blistering speed. He was hearing a totally different sound in his head, something with more space, more texture, more mood.
So what did he do? He totally rejected the frantic, complex energy of bebop. He put together a 9-piece band, a nonet, to chase this completely different sound. And the goal was the polar opposite of what everyone else was doing: relaxed, melodic, and almost orchestral.
This new sound was captured on an album that was perfectly named Birth of the Cool. By bringing in instruments you didn't normally hear in a small jazz group, like the French horn and tuba, they created this lush, textured soundscape. Now, it didn't sell much at first, but it ended up becoming massively influential, pretty much launching the entire West Coast or cool jazz movement.
So there you have it. He literally created a whole new genre of jazz. So what's the next move? He moved on. This becomes the pattern, you see. It's the engine that drives his entire career.
All right, let's jump ahead to the late 1950s. After kicking a really tough heroin addiction and making this triumphant comeback, Miles was about to enter what a lot of people considered his absolute peak acoustic period.
He assembled what is, without a doubt, one of the most revered groups in music history. His first great quintet, which would grow into a sextet featuring absolute titans like saxophonist John Coltrane and pianist Bill Evans. And together, they were going to pioneer yet another new direction for jazz.
So the key concept to understand here is something called modal jazz. Okay, so instead of improvising over a really dense, rapidly changing series of chords like in bebop, the musicians would improvise over a single scale, or a mode, for these long stretches. What did that do? It created this feeling of incredible openness and space in the music.
And that brand new approach led directly to this. Kind of Blue it's more than just an album. It's a cultural landmark. It's the record that even people who say they don't like jazz seem to own. It's calm, it's cool, it's absolutely brilliant.
And the impact was just staggering. To this day, it's sold over 5 million copies in the US alone. That makes it one of the best-selling and most acclaimed jazz albums in history. An absolute masterpiece that really defined a generation of sound.
Okay, so you've just created the most beloved jazz album of all time. You're at the very top of the acoustic jazz world. What do you do next? Well, if you're Miles Davis, you get bored and you plug in.
And he wasn't just, dipping his toe in the water. No way. He heard the raw energy of Sly and the Family Stone, the fire of Jimi Hendrix, and he wanted in. So he dove headfirst into those sounds, creating this fusion that would become his most divisive and controversial work. He completely alienated a huge part of his old audience.
And the transformation was total. The delicate, acoustic sound of his 60s quintet, it was gone. Completely replaced. In came distorted electric pianos, a trumpet running through a guitar's wah-wah pedal, and these heavy, undeniable funk and rock grooves. It was a complete sonic reinvention.
The landmark album of this era was Bitches Brew. It was dense, it was dark, it was psychedelic, and while a lot of jazz purists accused him of selling out, the album was a huge commercial success. It sold 1 million copies and basically ignited the entire jazz fusion movement.
And his look changed too. The sharp suits of the 60s were long gone. They were replaced by a style that was just as loud, psychedelic, and revolutionary as the music he was making.
After the really exhausting electric years, Davis actually disappeared for 5 years. But he wasn't done. He came back in the 1980s for his final act. And true to form, it was another shocking reinvention. This time, he embraced these glossy pop sounds and controversially covered songs by mainstream stars like Cyndi Lauper and Michael Jackson.
This quote just says it all. When someone asked him why he wouldn't play his old classics, he was blunt. For him, art was about creation, not recreation. Looking back was like artistic death. The only direction was forward.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. In an age of nostalgia tours and legacy acts, who is the artist today that embodies that same spirit? I mean, who is willing to risk everything, to alienate their fans, and to constantly push forward into the unknown? That fearless reinvention, that is the ultimate legacy of Miles Davis.